Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Read TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Humanity's Pride, written by nonexcusat. We cannot afford to ask the humans for help. John L.R., my council's premier, was entirely correct. However, this did not prevent the other 6 councillors from challenging her. What does the honourable premier propose, then? Should we simply wait to be annihilated by the Hyler horde? Zorgo Badal of House O was not only the newest addition to the council, but also the loudest member. He seemed to not realize this, however, so whenever he spoke, the usual headache caused by the current state of affairs was considerably exacerbated. John L.R. turned to the young upstart and glared at him, as if attempting to drill 6 holes into his forehead with her eyes. The Empire has prevailed in innumerable conflicts, quite often against all odds. While this war is not going well, we are still not doomed. The Honourable Councillor of House O should not let fear overpower his judgment. I knew, even before she finished her sentence, that the youngster would explode at this remark. He was even more deafening than I had anticipated. The Premier speaks of cowardice, yet the lands of our house are still far from the front lines. While we are doing all the fighting, we take the brunt of the Hylar attack, fighting for each system with everything we have. There is no cowardice here. We are perfectly willing to die for the survival of our species. But without external help, all that awaits us is annihilation. However bitter and annoyingly loud the young councillor's exclamation may have been, I feared that he was, just like the Premier, speaking the truth. Our situation was dire, and we could all feel it. The ensuing silence lasted far too long, and was broken only by Gebel Dersay, the longest-serving yet somehow most naive member of the council.
If I may interject, I believe there is still hope to get help from the Zin technocracy. If they pledge aid, their allies may follow suit, which can give us a fighting chance.
Collective groans signaled that everyone felt the way I did. The Tzin neither would nor could do anything to save us. Zorgo Badal took the words out of my mouth as he rebuked this absurd notion. We've tried everything. We asked, begged, and threatened every single power in the galaxy except for humanity. Yet, here we are. Our empire has no friends, and, even if it did, the Hyler would scare them into inaction. Since the Horde takes no prisoners, we only have the 2 options: fight and die alone, or pay the outrageous price and watch humans annihilate our enemy. His thunderous bellow was hard to stomach, both due to its volume as well as the painful accuracy at which it described our current condition. Yet, he was not finished. The Honourable Councillor should not confuse the pleasant trade relations between House E and the Tzin with any affection they may hold for the Empire. The technocracy, as all other potential allies, have forsaken us, and we should stop, as the humans say, grasping at straws. The room again fell to silence, with murmuring between several attendees, the only sound within it. The Premier could see that she was being left alone and attempted to reassert her authority.
In the event that the Honourable Councillor forgot, I will remind him that the price humanity demands will cost the Empire 10 times more than its entire annual gross domestic product, not to mention the other monumental changes that will surely lead to a collapse. And, of course, all of us will become paupers. Is that truly the course of action House O wishes to take? Since the alternative is death, yes. I hated this. I really, really hated this. Unfortunately, there seemed to be no other way out, so I spoke up. We thank the wise councillors. Their advice is, as always, invaluable. Considering the current position and the recent losses suffered, it is with a heavy heart that we have made a decision. Our Imperial Majesty has come to a conclusion that the Empire should approach humanity and pay their price, so that our species can survive. I saw some anger, but mostly relief on the faces in the room. However hard it was to admit, they realized that this was the only non-catastrophic decision that could be made. Karu Su-Nu, a House of U, was first to speak up. I believe I speak for the entire council by thanking the Imperial Majesty for their brilliant conclusion. However,
there are some reservations, keeping in mind the immense value of the human's price. Are we certain that they will defeat the Hyla? And also, could we consider the possibility of reneging on the deal if the Hyla are indeed defeated? What will humans do if we refuse to fulfill our end of the bargain? I was reminded that, unfortunately, my council was not staffed by the best and brightest. Whichever sibling of the house's head was most disposable. That was who they sent. Kurisu Nu was an especially clear example of this level of idiocy that I sometimes had to deal with. The Premier seemed just as fed up, so she barked at the moron, almost as loudly as Orco Bador's usual conversational voice. What will humans do? They will do exactly nothing, and we'll wish for the return of the Hyla. Humanity will simply announce to the entire galaxy that we reneged on our deal with them, as a result of which, no matter what happens, we will never receive support from them in the future. Do you realize how long our species will likely survive after that? Don't bother counting. You will overload your non-existent brains. Ever since the humans showed up on the galactic stage, they have been the primary deterrent of wars. It is in technology that Gebel, the Honorable Council of House E mentioned previously, would have been swallowed up several times by our empire if we had not been afraid of them asking the humans for help. And considering specifics of Zen society, they would have been far more able to pay humanity's price. So we have done nothing but trade with them. And if you ever bothered to read up on galactic history, you would know that of the 3 civilizations that refused to pay, none survived for even a generation. So no, we cannot cheat the humans. Referring to a counselor in the second person was a grave affront, but nobody seemed to care. Zor Gobador chose to continue instead of the Premier, who had stopped to catch her breath. As for whether the humans will be able to beat the Hyla, that is a tremendously easy question to answer. Yes, they will. Humans have never started a war, but they always finish them. Even if the Hyla were a dozen times stronger than what we estimate, a single human fleet would still annihilate their entire military. So the outcome of the conflict, with humanity on our side, is entirely clear. Thankfully, Kurisu Nu remained silent. It was obvious that the decision had been reached. Its consequences would be horrendous. Our entire civilization would be broken by its weight. But we would survive. And maybe somewhere down the line, possibly hundreds of generations, the galactic status quo would change, and we would reclaim our way of life. However, as of right now, there was nothing else to be done. So I, possibly for the last time, referred to my counselors. Our Imperial Majesty thanks the Council for its priceless insight. The decision is final. We will approach humanity and tomorrow, likely at sunrise, will address the people. You are dismissed. The negotiations with humans turned out to be just as brief as anticipated. Their demands were atrocious, but we knew that beforehand. So, just as I had told the Council, at sunrise in the capital, I broadcast my message simultaneously to all systems of the Empire. Now, fellow citizens, we greet you. May your future be bright. It is with great sadness that we announce to you the decision made to save us all. As of today, we have entered into an alliance with humanity, meaning that our combined armies will annihilate the Hyla horde in short order. The imminent end of the war is, of course, cause for celebration. But unfortunately, with it comes the weight of the infamous price to be paid for the human support. We would not undertake such a heavy burden if the peril of our empire found itself in was not so grave. But, sadly, there was no other alternative besides all of us fighting and dying bravely. While some of you may have preferred such a choice, in our imperial wisdom, the continuation of our species was considered to be more suitable course. As a result, while the Empire will not be obliged to make any direct or indirect payment to humanity, a monumental change will need to take place in our society. We will have to learn to live with it and bear the cost stemming from it. However much some of us may resent it. As per the humans' demand starting from the end of this transmission, all slaves, indentured servants, and subservient species are to be granted full freedom throughout the Empire. Each individual will receive the status of citizen, complete with all rights and privileges thereof. Moreover, each freed person will receive compensation for their so-called suffering, the exact amount of which will be defined by the committee selected by the humans. In order to raise funds for such an undertaking,
The imperial coffers, as well as those of the great houses, are to be liquidated. However, this will not be enough, meaning that you, the citizens of the Empire, will have to share in the burden. As clarified by the representatives of humanity, all citizens that currently own or have owned for the past 3 generations a slave or an indentured servant will be asked to pay their proportional share. Those few citizens who are outside of this category will be exempt from the mandatory contributions. Once the matter of payments is decided, the great houses will dissolve and humans will assist us in creating a new order. Representatives will be elected by all citizens, including the former slaves, and they will form a new body that will replace the Imperial Council. This new body will advise the Emperor from then on. These are the demands that were put forth by humanity and accepted by the Empire. We will pay the price, and we will survive. While you may not unjustly feel that your entire way of life is being tread upon, trust in your Emperor. It'll get better. Please, let us get through this dark period of our lives together. Our fellow citizens, we bid you farewell. May your future be bright. End of story.
I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.